Hello, welcome to True Cho on Wheels with another video recap for Team Velocity. Today's video is for Weir Canyon, in which the team goes out to Santa Ana Canyon Road to then connect to Weir Canyon. After this, they climb San Antonio and come back to Fullerton on Bastanchury Road.
Hi Arabella. I would like to add that today the group was not as big as it usually is. Only 15 riders showed up for Group 3. Nevertheless, the pace was good and a few attacks were thrown on La Palma Avenue, making the ride fast and spirited.
Well, it better be. I see a young woman riding with all these guys. It would be funny to see her riding faster than most of these self-proclaimed Group 3 riders.
Her name is Dory, and yes, she is fast and furious.
Was that the best joke you have? Anyway, Team Velocity's Fantasy League is coming along better each week. Now you can also share the application with a QR code, which we will show on the screen.
I want to point out that today's ride will be the last of July, and Strava Segments points competition results will be up in a couple of days. This will give us our first monthly team winner. For August, new adjustments will be made to further enhance strategic picks.
What are the changes being made?
For starters, Group 1 riders will be given 50 points every week that they show up. As everyone knows, Group 1 are experienced riders that ride at a moderate pace, and usually with some extra miles. This is to recognize their consistency and love for bike riding.
That seems like a good idea to me. I approve it.
Group 2 riders' multiplier will be 5, and riders that are moving up to Group 3, multiplier will be 3. Women's multiplier will be 10. We will continue to adjust as needed. Also, maybe increase to up to 6 members per team to make it more inclusive.
Okay, I give you permission to multiply everything you want. Now guess what? For the first time on True Cho on Wheels, we have a special guest.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really excited to be joining the channel for yet another video from True Cho on Wheels. In fact, before we go anywhere, for those of you that are watching these videos regularly and you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe to the channel so that you can get more videos, and the YouTube algorithm can help Alejandro reach more computers. And of course, like all the videos as well. Subscribe and like. But thank you very much. I am really excited to be here for this week's installment. As you heard the bots say, we are on the Weir Canyon ride, which is a very exciting route. It's perhaps one of the flatter ones, but it's also one of the harder ones because it gives a lot of people a lot of opportunities. It's a hard day, lots of wind, but it's an exciting route. I thought this was a particularly good edition of Weir Canyon. Perhaps the smaller group made it so exciting. There was almost nowhere to hide the whole morning. Attacks were flying, lots of people were contributing, and so it was a great ride. So I'm excited to be here in True Cho World Headquarters, joining the editing team, aka True Cho on Wheels, as we review yet another one of his awesome files. Right now the group is rolling very hard on the Palma Boulevard in Anaheim. Definitely some attacks. Nothing is so far sticking. Nothing's really been able to get any real time. I think the flat headwind course makes it really, really hard for one or two riders to go. Ty Katie was with us this week and certainly never gave up trying. I mean, I think he launched an attack every single time he felt he had recovered from his previous one. Our resident attack guru Chris, I think, looked around up there a few times, but he really wasn't able to find the right opportunities, and the group was kind of staying together. It was very hard to come off the front. That said, probably coming off the back was a risk for almost everybody, especially when the group is sitting like this, single file. All it takes is for one person to lose the wheel a little bit, and it could be really, really tough. When I'm watching these videos, I really like to watch the rear camera as much as I like to watch the front camera, It's always interesting to see what's happening on both sides of Trucho. And right now we're looking in the rear camera. We got a couple of really strong guys back there, namely Michael Nunez and Jake Wadroki. Both are very strong riders. Jake in particular has been having like a very, very fast few months. Has been pretty much in the mix on the flat rides, the climby rides, and everything else. So right now the group sitting on La Palma Boulevard, kind of a little bit of, I don't know, maybe perhaps a lull, a little bit of everybody is trying to probably just sit in good spots. Everybody knows that there's a hard right coming onto Gypsum Canyon Road, which is a bridge, and then almost immediately there's another right onto Santa Ana Canyon, and this is a spot where there are sometimes splits. And so I think that there's people on the front that are trying not to do too much. I think there's people in the back that are trying to make sure that they're in the right spots in case a split happens. And so positioning really important. Throughout this whole ride, positioning is important, but this is really one of the pinch spots. You can see here the group pretty much together through the turn. Trucho's going to look like maybe move up a couple of spots on the inside. The junior kid in the Israeli kit makes it look easy, but he's bridging up to the main spot of the group pretty easily. Same with Dory, doing a great job. She's always in the right spots. Trucho's in the sweet spot right here on the inside. You can tell the guys on the front are doing a whole lot of work. This bridge is always hard. I mean, just by pointing out the speeds, which Trucho just did, 24 miles an hour, and this guy in the red jersey is barely pedaling. So, I mean, that just shows how important positioning really is. You can see Ty is clearing a path for himself. He's probably going to launch something as soon as the group gets onto Santa Ana Canyon Road. Right now, he's passing one of our resident superstars, John McKinley. John definitely doesn't want to let Ty go. I know that. Here we are passing second group, and this was a great pass. I loved how second group kind of got over. We passed clearly on the left. It was very clean, and now the two groups aren't intermingling, which quite candidly just makes this next section a little bit safer. Right here is the hard right coming up onto Santa Ana Canyon Road. Again, just like we saw on the last right just a minute earlier, positioning key. Albert going a little wide there, passing the red jersey dude. Looks like he wants to try to make something happen. Red jersey dude trying to do something, not doing much. Albert's passing Jake. Trucho, Jake probably are enough firepower on the front right now so that nothing's going to get away, but it does look like both Ty and Albert have a few bike lengths. This section here, always hard. I think yesterday maybe not as hard as certain other days because I think maybe there was even a little bit of a tail right here. But Trucho himself looks like he's pretty comfortably getting back to the 2 leaders. And if I look in the rear cam, the group is really only a few bike lengths back. But again, let's look at the mile per hour right now. We're at 31 miles an hour. So this is not an easy effort at all. I mean, I think that Trucho made a good decision coming up to these two guys. It still would have been possible that they would have gone away. This could have been the spot. The group behind just has a lot of power in numbers, and again, that favorable wind, I think, just brings the group back together. But good move on Trucho's part. Ty continuing to put out effort on the front, and back to McKinley, Dory, etc. coming back through. This section here can be very different depending upon the wind. I think now that the group is together, I think most people are probably starting to really think about the big feature of this route. And no matter what's going on wind-wise, no matter whether it's a big group, small group, I think the main feature of this ride inevitably is going to be the San Antonio climb. And at this point, we're probably only about 4 or so miles from that spot. And I think at this point, if no group gets away safely, I think a lot of people are going to have on their minds that they don't want to do too much and give up that climb. Trucho very wisely saw that Ty tapped the junior on the back there. Looks like they're going to make one more effort, and Trucho's going to go, which is great. Leaving Michael Nunez on the front to do something, which is interesting. Little gap opening. Junior looks like he's a fantastic climber. Might not have the power yet for a tailwind, wide open, flat road like this. There's a slight rise to this road, but I'm going to call it a flat road. In fact, right now the gradient is showing at 0%, so pretty much flat road. The group, if you look on the rear camera, is not too far back. Not a terrible move. In certain circumstances, these 3 guys could actually get away and be gone. So the fact that Trucho's covering most of this stuff is inherently good. Covering it without putting out too much energy that he's going to be exposed on San Antonio. So I think the group is pretty much back together. I think right now when we move a little bit, we'll see that on the rear camera. Speed's gone down a little bit. It's pitching up a little bit more. Trucho's heart rate is 165. He is sitting on the front, still hitting 20 miles an hour at 2% grade, 167 now. So certainly this is not an easy section. Very, very hard right here. Not a lot of guys on the ride, not a lot of people to share the workload. So, here Trucho's now tipping into the 3% range. Speed's coming down a little bit. He's been out there for a solid 30 seconds. And Ty relieves him, which is great. Coming up here, I just saw Jake pass through the rear camera. As I mentioned earlier, Jake's been having a really great few months. I think he's become a big fan favorite of this channel, Jake Quadroki. Once again, Mike Nunez is putting out some energy. Is it a good spot or not? I don't know. Oftentimes we do hit a red light right here. But certainly now we're about to enter the next phase of this ride. Just by the way, as a public service announcement, everybody who comes on these rides pretty much knows, just don't roll through these reds. Just stop. You might think you've seen all the cars, but you also might not. And there might be somebody behind you that rolls with you, and there may be not enough room for them. So just stop at the lights. No big deal. Anyhow, as we resume, everybody's waiting that did roll that. We're kind of entering the next chapter. You have that first section of the ride, which is the long rollout on La Palma. Then there's that sort of chapter 2, which I think we just finished, which is kind of coming back across the bridge and then through the canyon. Still Grupo Compacto. And so now we're coming up onto a third chapter of the ride, which is really the ride along Yorba Boulevard. And then that's going to take us to the San Antonio, which is going to be sort of like the next chapter of the ride. And then the 5th chapter is going to be leaving San Antonio, and then sort of like the long stretch of rollers coming back on Bastanchury. So chapter 3, we're kind of gearing up for the Yorba grade, which is, when you're riding alone on these roads, it's actually kind of just not a road that you would even think about. When you're on some of these group rides and you've just done some efforts, which a lot of people in this group have just done a bunch of efforts, this little grade at a couple of percent can be just a bear to get over. Gaps can open. Positioning is super important. And so I think this chapter right here is sort of going to probably be a place where guys like Ty are going to give a few more launches, but a lot of guys are going to be thinking about the climb. So we just have to get through a couple of traffic lights here, and then we're going to get to this Yorba grade. While we're waiting for this red light, Trucho and I were just talking about today's stage of the Tour de France, and I guess we probably shouldn't spoil anything because there may be people that are listening to this even as late as tomorrow, which would be Monday. Today is the actual day of the stage, that may not have seen the results. But I will tell you, some of the most exciting racing I've ever witnessed, especially in the final day of the Grand Tour. And kind of like what we were saying at the early part of this video, this new course makes it so that it's a real wild card. It's anyone's game. It's a classics person's game. It's a sprinter's game. It's a GC person's game. Anybody can get involved. And so, hard to be sitting here watching a cycling video on the final day of the Tour de France and not at least acknowledge the Tour de France. This is also a great opportunity to point out this yellow replica bike with yellow helmet right in front of us. That is a big fan of the Tour de France, I would assume. Group is rolling through a light that oftentimes we do get stopped at, which is nice. And this is really going to be the beginning of the Yorba Linda grade. Slow pitch up for 3 miles or 2.99 miles. And in the last few times that we've done this ride, this has ended up being some of the hardest parts of this ride. And I think yesterday's edition would probably qualify for that as well. Here we see Mike Nunez in front of us. He knows that this is a place that you don't want to get exposed out on. And we see the red jersey guy behind Truccio, probably thinking the same thing. Who knows? These guys are going pretty good. Jake has taken a nice pull. Jake took a lot of nice pulls yesterday. Definitely contributing more than his fair share. But yeah, we see that behind us it's mostly single file, which if you're new to watching bike cycling stuff on YouTube, then you'll know when it's single file it's fast, and when it's bunched up it's not that fast. Hot days as well. I mean, I think that's an important part of yesterday and the last few of these Saturday rides has been the heat. Certain guys are better dealing with the heat than others. But here, these two guys are doing a nice job keeping a hard pace. Slight little opening happening, but John McKinley is going to shut that right down. 5%, 15 miles an hour, 151 beats on Truccio's computer. That's pretty good. Red guy's looking to help out Jake a little bit. I like seeing McKinley in the rear camera. Sometimes I could tell how hard some of these rides are based on how close John's chin is to the stem. A second ago, I saw it getting down there, and that's a good indicator that John's doing something. Yeah, and so while all of this was happening, while we were sitting on the wheels, I guess it was a little hard to see it, but Ty did just break free. I thought it was a minute after this. I thought it was at the next light, but it looks like Ty did break free. So at this point, now the group actually has a reason to chase. I think it's red jersey guy sitting on the front at this moment. That's how I remember it. I think Ty does hop through this light, to be fair. So he certainly is going to achieve some pretty impressive Strava times. So I don't think that this light actually impacted the results. But at this point, we do have a man up. And it's probably the man who deserves it because he's been attacking and putting out big efforts the whole time. Jake is giving his play-by-play as it's happening. He's shaking his head, guys. He's shaking his head. For Jake, that's colorful, so he might be getting hot. He's certainly going to the front right away. Barely see Ty on this screen. I will say this. Having watched these videos and having been at a few of these rides, sometimes it could be a little deceptive. I think in this case, Ty right now probably has about 45 seconds on the group, if I was to guess. And that's a really good size gap going into this climb, because even if the group was going into this climb together, Ty would be one of the 2 or 3 guys that I would say is probably capable of dropping everyone halfway up. So the fact that he's starting it ahead of everyone is probably what the group does not want. But anyhow, Truccio is sitting on the front, doing a lot of the work. This was a great week, by the way, to start up a fantasy league team. Hopefully by now all of the viewers and listeners of this channel know about the fantasy league, but there's going to be links underneath the video. Just like fantasy football, we got fantasy Saturday group ride. And so putting Ty on your team this week, for anyone out there that maybe started a team like on Friday and called it Unattached AF, and just so happened to put Ty into their fantasy team. In fact, all 5 people that new player put into their team showed up to the ride and probably scored points. So that was a good move on that player's part. We're cresting over this little riser, and this is the finale of the Yorba Linda grade. This thing could be really hard when the group is going good. I think yesterday it was pretty hard, not really hard. But anyhow, I think Trucho's doing a good job right here. He's dropping back a few spots so that he can maybe get 30 seconds of recovery before the climb starts. Very smart. I will say, since it's the first time we've seen anybody on this video do so, I like what the Turnbull Equity guy just did. He took a minute out of his hard effort to point out a cone. There's a lot of cones on this road. I don't know that Turnbull Equity guy very well, but I appreciate the fact that he's pointing stuff out. We've crested the little climb. The grade is over with. People are freewheeling. Red jersey guy's pretending he's not freewheeling, but everybody's freewheeling, and we're about to make a hard right onto San Antonio. This is going to be the next chapter of the ride, okay? As I said earlier, this particular ride is considered one of the flatter rides. This is really the big climb of the ride, and the regroup comes basically after the climb. So it gives people an opportunity to not feel a lot of pressure. For people that aren't good climbers or aren't fast climbers, they can kind of come through this climb and know that they're going to have a regroup. They're not going to get dropped forever. So this is the climb. John Musey showing himself on the front. Big time worker within this group. He's always putting in big efforts. He'll tell you when you're not putting in efforts, and he knows how to put in his efforts, and so we appreciate that. We appreciate all the humor and fun that he brings to these rides. Right now we're sitting right next to Dory on Trucho's camera, and she looks comfortable. Her cadence is nice. She's sitting with Jake, who's a good person to be sitting with right now. Ty is still up. Ty is up the road, and at this point on this camera we could barely see him. I think while the ride was happening we could just see a little bit of him right now. It's hard to see him on the camera right now. She's holding her position well. Mike Nunez sitting comfortably. Red jersey guy is sitting there. He's probably not that comfortable, is my guess. In our rear view, we're seeing some splintering happen. And that's, if 30 people show up to this ride, 5 or 6 are going to get up. If 15 people show up to this ride, 5 people are going to get up. I mean, that's the nature of this ride. This climb comes after a lot of hard efforts. It's maybe not the hardest climb in the world for some of these people if they were just doing it, on a training ride. But coming after all the stuff that they just came through, this can be a really hard climb. Basically, the climb is got 2 sections. This first little kicker that we've been on since it started. It's going to level out in about a minute and a half, and then there's a nice longer section to it after a small descent. So right now we're seeing the splintering slightly up the road here. We've got a group of 5 people: Albert, Dory, red jersey guy, Jake, and Mike Nunez. They're about 45, maybe at this point as much as a full minute behind Ty. Ty has cleared this kicker. He's gone through the little descent, and he's already on the real climb. The junior rider in the Israeli kit is sitting right in front of Trucho, and sitting behind Trucho right now, you got Johansi, kind of a newer kind of dude who was riding with Group 2 for a while and has shown a good sort of transition story of moving from 2 to 3. At this point in the fantasy game, I'm looking over at Trucho. I'm thinking he's a Group 3 guy as far as fantasy points are concerned. Trucho, jury's out on the. I'm no jury guy here. I'm just the commentator, guest commentator of the day. Coming over, we got a nice little gruppetto here. We got this junior guy. We got Johansi, who's in the second group, Trucho. So that's kind of a good argument. And you got looks like John McKinley on Johansi's wheel, and that's definitely Musi as well. So that's a great little group. Now it looks like we're starting the main piece of the climb. We could see the chase group behind Ty a little bit ahead of us. They're just ahead of that van there. I would say that gap, if I had to guess right now, is probably about 15 seconds. And so this group looks like they're staying together as the climb is really getting started, which is cool. Trucho's sitting on the front. The van is probably obscuring our view of the chase group, but this climb it drags. I mean, we're at 5% right now, and we're doing 11 miles an hour, so that's no joke. 160 beats on Trucho's computer. McKinley about halfway to the stem, so that shows you it's not an easy effort. He's probably not chatty. Musi is doing a nice pull here. Trucho looks like he's sitting on the wheel pretty good. Maybe our group here, maybe this second chase is splintering a little bit. Maybe Johansi's starting to fade on that rear camera. Musi pedaling a very nice cadence. I mean, that guy always pedals a good cadence. We got a really nice cadence in front of us. McKinley on the rear camera looks like he's pedaling pretty comfortably. No surprise there. I can't quite see the chasers ahead of us, but I'm saying they're probably at this point, 30 seconds or something like that. Climb kind of drags through this residential neighborhood. Pretty steady, 5-6%. Now we just bumped up to 7%. Still another 2 or 3 minutes of climbing. So it's a hard one after everything that's already happened. And here's a good opportunity. John and John sitting in front of us are, in fact, for those of you who have been trying to figure it out for the last few years, this, in fact, is the J&J of the world-famous J&J ride, which takes place on Sundays. Good, hard place to train and train with guys that only know how to go one speed, which is really, really fast. It's also for the early birds. But, yeah, we're sitting with the J&Js, and they're both putting out big efforts here, big watts. And now we're starting to see the top of the climb. So where that little opening is, we're going to be going on a hard left, and that's going to take us on to Fairmont. And that is the tradition, like at the top of Fairmont is traditionally where this regroup is supposed to be. The group has democratically moved the regroup to the top of the next little bump. I'm not sure about groups 1 and 2 if they've adopted the new regroup, but group 3 for a few versions of this ride have pretty much moved the regroup. So at this point, we're still climbing technically. Actually, for real we are, because we're still at 5 or 6%. This is the traditional finish to the San Antonio climb, even though we are on Fairmont at this point. This is where most people who look at Strava and stuff will tell you is the normal regroup, and normally where people are going to make their effort until. But we're going to pedal through. We're not going to stop at the top because there is one more bump. And so it looks like the two Johns are going to start the descent for us, and Trucho is sitting pretty comfortably in between them. Got a couple of Group 1 people up ahead, so it's going to be all about just making a nice, safe pass around these guys. We're going to hopefully rely on them to be kind to us and move over. There they go. They're moving over, which is great. I have a van in front of us. That's I appreciate what John's doing. Trucho, however, is going to jump across, and we're going to start this descent. He's out of patience. He wants the red jersey guy, and I appreciate that. So we're starting the descent. This could be fast. There can be cars, so it's a little twisty. This is a nice safe line that Trucho's on, which is good. Looks like McKinley's going to maybe try to pass us on the inside. Musey's still here, which is great. Very comfortable. And in another few seconds, there's McKinley coming through on the inside. In another few seconds, we're going to start. There's just like a little kicker. I think on Strava it might be called like the Fairmont kicker or something like that. But it's not a hard climb. But I'll tell you, when the regroup used to be at the top, there were times where it would be like fighting for your life to make it over this kicker and not get dropped before the Bastanchury section starts, which is what I described earlier as Chapter 4. So, again, sitting on J&J here, two of the best guys in the whole group to be sitting on, in my opinion. And now we're looking at this final kicker. And Trucho is going to launch off of the J&J and hunt down the red jersey dude. And the regroup is going to be sort of at the top there. I think behind us, we have some of those guys that we started the climb with, like Johansi and the junior guy. And then behind all of them, we have like a gruppetto of the yellow jersey bike and some other dudes that are going to be coming up. So there's going to be a little regroup coming up here. Here's red jersey guy, who did not stay with Jake to the top. He was, of that 5-person group, he's the one who got detached. But we're going to come to the regroup together and start to drink whatever water people have, eat gels, because this next section, Chapter 4, is fast and it's really fun. And pardon me, Chapter 5 is the Bastanchury, but that next section is fast, and it's a little bit of strategic stuff going on in terms of trying to follow the right wheels and not get gapped off. But here we are at the official regroup. All right, so while we're at this regroup, the video is going to keep going. And the Trucho on Wheels channel is going to do something a little bit different than they've been doing lately. They're actually going to show the results of the previous week's Strava contest now instead of at the end of the ride. And that way we can see the results, but we could also talk a little bit about the game, and we can go through some of the updates that Trucho mentioned through his bots at the beginning of the video. So here's the results on the screen. And basically, for anybody who's either new to this or people who have been watching since the beginning but haven't really taken the time to understand these graphs that show up on the screen, throughout the video, there's certain segments that Trucho targets and then shows the results of those Strava segments on the video. And basically, there'll be a list of people ranked 1 through whatever that show the results of that Strava segment, by each person's name. Basically, the winner of each segment gets full points, followed by second place, who gets a little bit less, third place a little bit less. And so this spreadsheet basically tabulates the results of the individual Strava segments into an overall ride result sheet. So whoever is first got the most number of points from the previous week's contest. So right now we're going to look at last week's, and King Albert is sitting in the first place spot, with our host sitting conveniently in the number 2 spot, and followed by Kevin, Aaron, Shane, and some other people. I think this is kind of like a way of looking at this is kind of like looking at the consistency of people on the rides. Some of the Strava segments are going to be climbs. Some of them are going to be flat roads. Some of them are going to be like the quote-unquote sprints that we have on these rides. Normally, when the group comes back into town, sometimes when they pass through other city limit signs, there's known sprints. There's some that aren't attached to city limits. Like the one that comes to mind immediately is on the Crawford Canyon ride. And so anyhow, so that's kind of like he's choosing a selection of segments for each of these rides that sort of give a feel for how the overall ride went. Okay. So again, in this case, Albert, Alejandro, Kevin, these are your leaders from last week. Now, the Trucho on Wheels channel has introduced a new fantasy game, and there's links to that game down below, where if you haven't ever played fantasy football or basketball or something like that, basically people create teams. There's a budget that you have of a certain number of points, so you can choose 5 riders. Right now, everybody in the game is weighted evenly at 20 points, but I think the next version of the game in August, there's going to be some weightings that are going to be assigned so that you can't just simply choose the 5 best Group 3 riders. Other big changes are also coming to the game for August. August is going to start like sort of a new series, so everybody's going to kind of go back to zero. And some other big changes are going to try to make an effort of getting some sort of wild cards, giving people who maybe aren't 1st through 5th or 6th or something like that, a reason to pick them on your team. Right now with the way the game works, if you just pick the first 5 or 6 guys from most of the weeks on average, you're going to have a winning team. But without having that ability to pick just the best Group 3 guys, there's going to be a little bit more incentive to look down through the list a little bit. The people that are in between Groups 2 and 3 are going to get a multiplier of 3 on their points. So if you scored 30 points and you're somebody that's in between the 2 groups, you're actually going to get 90 points. So in this case, you would have been the leader if you chose that person on your team. The people that are squarely Group 2 riders are going to have a multiplier of 5 times, and anybody of the female gender is going to get a multiplier of 10. So if Dory shows up to the ride and she's on your team, you're probably going to be in a good position. As we're gabbing away over here, the ride has already picked back up and we're rolling down Fairmont. Basically, at this point, we're about to turn. This isn't a very long descent, and it's not a very steep descent. Trucho's computer is showing us a negative 1% grade. He's rolling right now at 25 miles an hour, probably pedaling lightly or maybe even just freewheeling. But basically, this is not too long of a descent. When we're climbing it in the opposite direction, it seems like a long climb, but it's a fairly short descent. And we're going to make a right-hand turn onto Bastanchury, and this is going to start the 5th and final chapter of this particular group ride called Weir Canyon. At this point, the climbing is completely behind us. I don't think there's any climbing left. I think it's a net negative from here to the finish. And basically, it's mostly just fast, mostly flat, and the sort of ride unofficially probably kind of ends for most people at the Fullerton City limit sign. From there, it's a few miles back to downtown Fullerton, where the official regroup is. But this is the beginning of what is really the end of this particular group ride. So we've just turned on to Bastanchury. The evergreen Matt Stout is sitting on the front, doing a great job setting an initial pace for everybody. Musey sitting squarely on his wheel. Small gap at this point behind Trucho. Again, I think the images in that rear camera sometimes look a little farther than they actually are. I think my memories from yesterday say that the group is only a couple seconds back. It looks a little bit bigger than that, but they're rolling up this small little roller, very small. Matt is still pushing away on the front. John's going to pull through. Trucho's doing his half-wheel game. Oh, he's pulling through. And now we can see the group is almost on Matt's wheel. So that was really only a couple of seconds. We're going to be Grupo Compacto here in just a sec. This little roller is actually deceiving. It says 1 or 2% on the gradient from Trucho's computer. But this is big ring climbing right here. It's big ring, middle cassette. I mean, this is a pretty hard part of the course. Ty coming from the back and putting in a little effort. Trucho jumped on the wheel pretty quick, neutralizing that. The group is pretty quickly coming back onto Trucho. I'm just going to guess that this is Jake, based on the way he's sitting on his bike, that's sitting behind Trucho. And so people are going to hold the leash on Ty, I think, right now. I think at this point, a lot of people want this to be Grupo Compacto for the Fullerton City limit sign. I think this would be a hard spot for somebody to stay away, even for 2 or 3 people to stay away. Even for a small group like this, where there's not a lot of firepower to bring people back, I think this is a hard spot to stay away. So we'll probably see a few more attacks. As I'm saying it, Ty is standing up on the pedals. Trucho's sitting right on that wheel, holding it. Ty opens up a little gap here. Mike Nunez doesn't like it. He's looking down at his computer. Ty doesn't look like he's getting too far off. And we're about to start the descent of this small roller. Ty's got a little bit of a gap, but Mike is going to pull through on the inside here. McKinley sitting right on him, real close to that stem. John's working. And Hake is doing whatever he's doing from his hoods. Red jersey guy letting holes open up, and Musey sitting on his wheel real nice. Trucho's floating towards the back here. I think he's got confidence that nothing's going to break up. There is a little traffic light coming up here that the group usually gets stopped at. Trucho's too smart to ever bank on those, but Trucho's feeling pretty comfortable that nothing's going to happen. Looks like there's 1 or 2 or maybe a small group of guys on the rear camera. It's actually a green light, but there was some braking there. Looks like people are going to be sitting on the wheels. It doesn't look like much is getting off here. Single file, it's going fast, 36 miles an hour. The computer is showing a 0%. I think there's a slight decline right here. Now we're at -1, down to 34 miles an hour, -2% grade. So the group is moving. A little bit of freewheeling here, still at 34 miles an hour. Trucho's beats are up there, so he's recovering a little, but not a lot. It's been a hard ride. Freewheeling, pedaling, freewheeling. It's a hard spot. It's hard to get people to pull through right here. But the group is together. And I think at this point, I think it's pretty safe to say everybody was thinking about that city limit sign. People don't want to let anybody go. I think if there weren't regroups, I think to make a strong case that Ty would have been gone. But there are regroups on that Saturday group ride, and so the group is together. Pedaling pretty good. Looks like Jake was probably doing some work up front because he just drifted to the back. The Jays are burying themselves. They're getting close to their stems. We do have some red lights in here. And you know, I will say the Weir Canyon route on the way out to the climb and on the way back, whether we're doing it forwards or reversed, is a route that's very closely associated with traffic lights. We're always on main roads. We're very rarely on smaller roads. There's always traffic lights, and that's one of the things these rides are known for is getting up to speed, then slowing down for a light, and then getting back up to speed. And that's part of what wears us down on these rides, I think. Chris Chu with his signature open jersey flapping. It is July, folks. Chris's jersey will be open and flapping in February, but it is July. It's hot out there. These rides have been hot. I think it would be fun if technology-wise we had the ability to show the temperature in the corner of the screen, because this was a hot one, and I think that adds a lot to the rides. Got a couple of Group 1 guys that we just caught up to. Not too many, so I think it's going to be a pretty safe situation in terms of this pass. Red jersey guys coming through. Going to do maybe a little bit of work here. We'll see. Yeah, he's going to do something. But basically, we got a lot of sections of just sort of lights here. But the speed is still going to be pretty high, if for no other reason than probably just to try to keep everybody together. It's harder to make an attack stick when the group is going good. Attacks work when the group slows a little bit. Trucho sitting on red jersey guy. Mike Nunez sitting on Trucho. Looks like we're still single file behind Mike. Maybe that's Matt back there doing a little freewheeling. Red jersey guy's cadence is questionable, putting in a little bit of work here. Slight roller. At this point, there's really not many rollers left. I mean, we're kind of getting down to it. I would say, just based on like the little profile in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, we're probably down to about 2 or 3 miles left to that city limit sign. We're not that far out. Trucho is going to start drifting back, and he's probably going to look for places to sit for a couple of miles to not have to put in a lot of time in the wind, but not be too far back so that he can contest a little bit. Got another red light. Again, very, very signature part of this ride. I don't think I've mentioned Herman's name yet. Herman had a very strong day yesterday. Continues to be a presence on Group 3. Very strong day for pretty much everybody yesterday. And that's one of the fun things about these smaller groups, is that everybody ends up pitching in a little bit more, I think, when it's smaller. Not a lot of places to hide. And those that choose not to do anything, it's even more obvious on these smaller days. Jake and Chris Chu doing a little bit of chat. I don't know if it's strategy. I don't know what they're doing, but they're pointing, they're talking. Matt Stout's pretending not to see anybody, so I don't know what's going on in his mind, but maybe stuff. I don't know. I know Nunez has stuff in his head. I know he's already thinking about this sprint. But everybody's playing it kind of cool. We've got the yellow bike guy sitting behind us. Hopefully there's only going to be a couple more lights. Every now and again, the group does make the last couple of lights, and that'll be a fun sprint when that happens. Fast and positioning actually pays off for those people that found the right position. Touching the brakes is almost like a reshuffle each time. It's like a reset each time that happens. Group gets up to speed. People find wheels. Then a red light happens. Oh, look at this. This right here. If you don't know John McKinley, then you should know this. When you see him tightening his shoes, he's thinking about things. He's coming back from an injury, but he's thinking about things on this sprint. But group is going again. Red jersey guy's still up there. There's a tiny little city limit sign here that I don't even know if there's a Strava segment for it. But Trucho's going to come forward on it. Him and the red jersey guy have a little history on city limit signs, so Trucho owes that other guy something on those. Trucho's been toyed with in the past. Here we got a red light yet again, and so it's going to be another reshuffle. No matter where people were, they're going to have to refigure it all out, because even though we're rolling, people didn't have to unclip one of their pedals. We still have to get back up to speed. You know, right now we slowed down to about 14 or 15 at that light. We're only up to 22, 24 right now. Mike Nunez on the front, pretty close to a sprint. So Mike Nunez 2.0 here, love it. Stout doing a great job covering him. Johanssi covering Stout. Trucho's on Johanssi, red jersey guy on Trucho. Guys are trying to find those positions, but we still have a few more potential lights. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. This is a time when I will say I'm pretty happy that groups 2 and 3 aren't combined. The fewer people right here, especially playing in the front of the group, the better. A little bit safer, but looks like we got another red light. So once again, people are gonna hit the brakes. Yeah, we see people unclipping from the pedals. So that means it's a full reset. Some people were probably able to stay on their pedals there, but the speed effectively went to 5 or 6 miles an hour. Everybody is kind of faking not pulling through, faking an effort, even though nobody's actually riding hard. Chris Chu is trying to line up on Mike Nunez. We'll see how that plays out in the next few minutes. John Musey, John McKinley are kind of doing something. I could see Stout is almost freewheeling on the front. 17, 16, it got more red lights. Hopefully one of these days we'll get to commentate on a video like this where we see greens right here, because those are fun. All of a sudden, being in the 5th position is not that far back. You almost sort of wish you were in the 7th position. You could almost see the drag in front of you, but it's a long way. I mean, I think at this point right here, we're still probably close to a kilometer from the sprint itself. Mike Nunez doesn't want to be there, but he also doesn't want Matt being too far off the front, so he's gonna just kind of clip that down. Trucho's on Nunez. Chu is not too far back. I think Chu wants to be by Nunez on this sprint. I think if McKinley wasn't coming back from an injury, with the group of people that we have here today, he would have been the person that we all would have looked at. He is an incredible sprinter, was a fantastic criterium racer. But in this group of people, with him having a little bit of injury, he's still somebody I would say should be looked at. Mike Nunez actually can pull off a sprint when he comes off the right wheel. He's pretty good at holding speed. Chris is tightening up his shoes. Not very aero with that jersey flapping. Maybe next week he'll zip it up before the sprint. Little gap. McKinley sees it. McKinley knows it. If the light wasn't there, that might be almost enough of a gap that if people started riding hard right now, they could stay off. But the group is mobilizing behind. They are making this light, but this is not the last light, unfortunately. Red jersey dude is finding McKinley, but trying to keep some open space in front of him as well. If this was green right here, this would have been really interesting, but we have a full stop coming. In fact, not only do we have a full stop, we have a car in the turn lane / bike lane. So, I mean, this is a tough spot. And kudos to Nunez. He at least rolled through right here to the front spot. Kind of went a little too far into that intersection. I think some of the people, like Red Jersey guy, had to unclip, so he's already out of position. Chris was able to stay with it. So at this point, we have a 3-person sprint here. We got Nunez, we got Chu, who's sitting in absolute prime position, tries to go around, jersey flapping, but Nunez steps on his pedals, and from the front position is able to hold on. Trucho cleaning up. In Trucho's rear view, we got Red Jersey guy, who looks good on Strava on that one, but in the real picture here is a 4th place finisher. Kind of started too far back and didn't have position. So that's the sprint. That's also kind of the unofficial end of the ride. Once again, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the videos that you're watching. Leave a comment. Make fun of somebody. Tell Trucho how beautiful he is. Tell him thank you for the video. All that stuff really does help these videos. And thanks, everybody. And thank you, Trucho, for letting me sit in and be the guest commentator this week. A lot of fun. I hope I get to do it again sometime. And I don't know, keep the rubber side down.